So, let's gonna start again. Still people are on lunchtime, but we cannot wait for the next one. We have a speaker coming from Norway, Dr. Giannoumis, with a, you will be surprised because the energy you're gonna put to this room, we're gonna surprise everybody. Can I introduce you to Dr. Giannoumis with the speech, The 7 Lovely Wins That Your University Didn't Teach You About Innovation.
You guys are amazing, oh my gosh. So who likes beer? Yes, one person. Who likes statistics? Usually the beer gets more of a response. Well, I don't have beer, but what I have here is some of this delicious nettle syrup brought to you by Nettle Smart. This is not sponsored, by the way. I purchased these on my own. What if I told you there's a secret that will help your company perform 5 times better than your competition? And what if it was the same thing that could help your company become 3 times more creative in their work? And yet, what we find is that of all the global leaders that exist in the world, the percentage that have this quality don't even fit in the cap of one of these bottles. Now, that's a great analogy, I think, for understanding a bit more about how we can be an innovative leader. And I've got a bit of a confession to make to you. I am a terrible innovator. Absolute garbage. And it's not because I haven't won awards for my innovations. I've won awards from the United Nations. I've acquired over 13 million euro from funders for my innovations, but I'm a terrible innovator. And I discovered this one day when I used to be a professor, and one of my students came into my office and with one sentence destroyed 15 years worth of my research on innovation. In that one sentence, it changed my entire career. And I don't think this student realized what she was doing. She was just there to offer me some advice, some information, and I was sitting there looking at her dumbfounded, flabbergasted as to how she could have known this. And after 15 years, I still had no clue. Now, I think a lot of us get that innovation is absolutely critical for us moving our businesses and society forward. And I think we all agree that innovation is about more than just good ideas. I think we agree that innovation means putting those ideas into practice. But I think what we're all missing is the fact that you have to be inclusive if you're going to be innovative. And being inclusive will enable you to minimize the risk that your products or services are rolled out and are only accessible and usable to a very narrow part of the population, a very small market. It'll enable you to maintain engagement, not just with your customers, but with your employees, with your innovators that you have on staff. And being inclusive will also help you maximize the opportunities for scaling into global markets. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, Anthony, that sounds great, but you know what? Innovation, inclusion, these are all just buzzwords. We hear them 1,000 times a day. They are absolute meaningless, and you're totally right. You're absolutely right. They are buzzwords. What we have to do is more than just talk about innovation, more than just talk about inclusion. We have to take action. Now, I have 7 wins of innovative leadership. However, you're going to get the one most important win today. So this student, her name is Katie. She's sitting there in my office, sitting there in a chair, and I'm in my big, fancy professor chair, right? Those big leather ones, my huge desk, and I'm sitting across from her. And I'm looking at her, and I'm just seeing all of this work crumble before my eyes, all of this effort that I'd put into the science of innovation just disappearing in front of me. And I'm gritting my teeth at everything she is saying to me, and I'm tapping my leg just to kind of keep centered as she's throwing volley after volley of criticisms at me. And outside of my office, a car honks at something that was in the road, and it kind of snaps me out of this dazed state. And I look over at her, and I realize that Katie is a revolutionary. Katie isn't satisfied with the status quo. Katie is there to speak truth to power. And Katie sees in my research a flaw, and she sees it as her responsibility to correct that flaw. The irony is, she was trying to make me a better researcher, but in the process, she made me a better leader. So as she's staring at me and I'm staring at her, and I'm just dumbfounded, I'm just at a loss for words, and she's staring at me like, "You arrogant asshole." Just completely perplexed as why I'm not completely taking on board everything she is saying. Now, I don't know if you guys have had this experience before. Have you ever had a young person call you out for something you did wrong? Can you raise your hand if you've ever had a young person tell you a very uncomfortable truth? Yeah, we've all had that. The hair on the back of your neck kind of stands up and you're like, grit your teeth at them. Now, in Norway, I don't know what this is like here in Czech Republic or other parts of the world. I think in where I've come from in the United States, students address their teachers as professor. So it's Professor Giannoumis, or in my case, Professor Anthony is fine, or Dr. Giannoumis or Dr. Anthony. Well, in Norway, it's something to do with this egalitarianism. The students address their professors by their first name. So when Katie sits there and looks at me and says, "Anthony, your research is flawed," it hits different. It just connects in a really different way. And since I'm a professor, I thrive in order, creating order from chaos. I thrive in the ivory tower of academia. I thrive in these positions of authority because I've spent my life doing research on these topics. And I'm used to being the one in the room that everybody calls to and says, "Anthony, what does the science say about innovation?" And I'm there to bring my wisdom to that conversation. But it was completely deflating to be in that room with Katie. And what hurt the most is I knew she was right. I knew she was spot on with her criticism, and I hated it. I hated every word that comes out of her mouth because it threw chaos into the order that I had already created out of society, out of innovation. She just threw a huge monkey wrench into the whole system that I'd created. And it wasn't just that I hated everything she was saying or that I knew she was right. I didn't want to admit it. I just wanted to dig my heels in and say, "No, you are the student. I am the professor. I know this field more than you." And I didn't even know why she was right. I knew surface level she was onto something, but I didn't fully understand her perspective and experience, and so I couldn't grasp what exactly she was getting at. Now, Katie's this revolutionary coming into my office to speak this truth to power, and I'm looking over at her, and I'm realizing that this isn't just a bachelor student sitting here telling me how to do my work better. This is Captain Marvel. Do we know this movie, Captain Marvel? Yeah, it's about this woman who gains superpowers, and her mentor, her teacher, tries to constrain her and control her and put her in a box, and she eventually just breaks free of that box to own her space, to own her position in the world. And I'm looking at her and realizing that's her. She is Captain Marvel in this story. And she's making me feel, with every word, with every criticism, she's making me feel so small. She's making me feel just almost insignificant, as insignificant as the amount of time that Donald Trump puts in his tweets, that level of insignificance. And so I'm sitting there trying to muster up my courage to face the fact that she knows more about this issue than I do. She has this inherent intuition about this work. And I'm just frozen in fear that I got this wrong, that 15 years worth of research is somehow going to need to be fixed, going to need to be rectified, going to need to be restructured and reorganized. Well, Katie makes a fatal mistake that day that completely undermined her arguments, completely undermined her criticisms. In my office, I have a huge wipe-off board, one of those big white wipe-off boards, right? And on that wipe-off board, there's a tray at the bottom. And in that tray, I have 3 markers. I have a black marker, I have a blue marker, and I have a red marker. Now, professors like things just so. The black marker I use for writing text. Anytime I need to write words on the wipe-off board, I use the black marker. The blue marker is used for diagrams. So if I want to draw a figure or a graph, I use the blue marker. The red marker is only used when I need to make a correction, if I need to make a fix to something that's already written on the board. Now, Katie makes a fatal mistake by trying to draw a figure using the red marker. And so obviously she had no leg to stand on this argument. It's the equivalent of being in a conversation with somebody in the chat and you misspell a word and they go, you misspelled a word, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. It's that level of invalidation. Well, we get over the fact that she used the wrong marker, and I learned a really, really critical lesson that day. I learned that in order to enable someone to innovate, in order for us as leaders to empower the innovators at our companies and at our jobs, we have to shut up. It's a very simple lesson. We have to shut up or they will shut down. We have to shut up or our innovators, our most talented people, will shut down. The story with Katie has a rather beautiful ending. She and I continued to work together while she finished her master's thesis. She went on to continue to do a job as an entrepreneur. She opened her own company, and I mentored her for many, many years. And at one point, she came to me and said, "Anthony, I want to help you fix the gap in your research." And I said, "Great, Katie, I would love that. That would make me happier than anything." And so we sat down and we made a research project and we gathered data and we analyzed that data and we came up with new findings, and we were super excited to publish these findings, get them out into the scientific community so others could build off of that work. And so we found this conference, a very elite academic conference at Cambridge University. All the papers everyone submitted was peer-reviewed by experts in this field, not just experts in the UK or Norway, experts across the globe. And so we knew we were kind of underdogs. We thought maybe this is going to be worth it. We'll just submit it and see. And they accepted the paper. And we were thrilled. So we're on a plane to Cambridge University to present our findings, and we get there, and there's all these people, the giants of our field, the ones that stand so proud of their intellectual achievements, and we thought for sure these people are going to have a criticism for us, but nothing. We presented the paper, and we got an ovation, and everybody was happy. At the end of the conference, they're giving out awards. They were giving out an award for the best paper. And I figured one of those giants was going to get that award. They're an obvious choice. They've been working in this field for their whole lives. They've made significant contributions to the science. They're going to get that award. And I said, that's fine. I said, Katie, I'm going to head back home. My flight left before the conference finished, so you can stay, enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm going to be back in Oslo. And I'm sitting in my seat in the plane, and we're getting ready to take off, and I never turn my phone off on, don't tell anybody, but just between us. I never turn my phone off. And then I get a phone call from Katie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I hope she's okay. I thought maybe something had happened. And Katie picks up the phone, and she's breathless. She says, Anthony, we won top paper. We won best paper at this conference from Cambridge University. Blew my mind. And so we took that forward in our work, and it changed my entire career. So I want to teach you a little bit of a magic trick. This is a magic trick to help you relearn how we interact in teams, how we interact in groups. And it's a very simple one. It's the sign language for shut up. Okay? Do we know the chef's kiss, the Italian gesture, this one? Yeah? Let's all do this together so I know what you're talking about. Okay, good. So it's open palm and then chef's kiss to the corner of your mouth. That's all it is. Let's do it together. Come on, everybody together. Here we go. Open palm and boom. This is shut up in sign language. So I want you to promise me something. I want you to promise me that you'll go back to your teams and you'll teach them this gesture. Or you'll go back to your boss and maybe teach them this gesture. And remind them that if you're in a meeting, if you're in a group, and whoever's speaking, whoever's using up all the space is standing there talking, if they see in one of their team members just subtly looking at you like this, then it's time for you to shut up so they don't shut down. So what are we going to do when someone like me is taking up all the space in the room? Let's do it one more time together. Yeah? And boom.
Are there any questions?
We have a question.
And just because I'm British, I'd say instead of not shut up, but just defer judgment.
Yeah, fair enough.
Would you comment on the fact that inclusive innovation really is more about inclusive institutions and, more importantly, inclusive organizations?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes. Absolutely. So I had a real esteemed opportunity to be approached by Deloitte headquarters in Brussels in Belgium. And the reason they approached me was for exactly this issue. Deloitte knows that they have to move beyond just talk about inclusion and talk about innovation, that they need to put it into practice. And so what they came to us to help them do is to find ways of making this topic more engaging. Find ways of making this topic connect with their top brass, their partner level, their C-suite level. And so what we came up with is a game. We call it the inclusion game. But we don't tell the participants that it's about inclusion. We tell the people in the room that this is about innovation. This is about business transformation. So when you get all these business leaders, all these macho guys that have got MBAs and everything else, and you don't tell me how to run a company, I know how to run a company. These guys, they're sitting in that room and they think, oh, I'm gonna compete in a team against other people in my company. I'm going to compete against them on who can be the most innovative. I say, yes, that's exactly what you're going to do. And I'm sneaking in the inclusion aspect. So we run them through 7 different scenarios where they have to make decisions where there's trade-offs in each scenario. And they're looking across the room and they see John with the corner office, John that I was competing against when we were both in school, and now I have to compete against him. Who's got the bigger office? Who's got the bigger salary? And now in this room, I'm going to show him how it's done. So they're competing against each other. We don't tell them it's about inclusion. We say it's innovation. Every decision they're making, we score them. Boom. Team A gets this much. Team B gets this much. Team C gets this much. And slowly they're trying to figure out. We ask them after each round, we say, do you know what the secret red thread is? And they say, oh, well, maybe it's about environmental responsibility, or maybe it's about ESG is the new big topic now. ESG, what is this? Environmental, social, and G, governance, that's the one. And so they're thinking it's that, and they think it's this other thing. So at the end of the game, we have a big reveal that it's about inclusion. And so then their minds just completely flip, because the whole day they have been making inclusive decisions. They have been trying to fix their scores. They have been trying to beat the game, and they've been making more and more inclusive decisions as they go along. And then we show them the science behind inclusion. We say, look, this is how to transform your organization. You want to be more innovative? Be more inclusive. You want to have a better bottom line? Be more inclusive. You want to have teams that are able to innovate, that are able to think outside the box? Be more inclusive. And we run them through then a series of case stories drawn from research. We run them through good cases and bad cases, which the bad cases are always hilarious and wonderful and fun. And then we give them all the people in the room, we bring them into a round table, and we give them a deck of cards, 1 through 10. And we ask them each question from each round, how do you think your company performs? And we have them select the card secretly, so that they're not looking at each other and, oh, the boss is ranking us 7, so I better do 7 too. So then each of them, we hold them up all at the same time, and it gives us a chance to talk to each other. So then it's, okay, you gave your company a 3 for inclusive hiring, but you gave it a 10. Usually it's the guys like me that give them a 10, because I'm like, I don't see a problem. Everything's fine. We're making sure that hiring isn't biased towards certain people and certain individuals. So we're taking into account the whole identity of the individual and not just hiring people that are a good fit. We're hiring good fit, but also a good ad. Is this enough of an explanation? I got one more thing to say. So the whole point of it is that we've gamified inclusion training. And what gamified means is that we get people out of their phone and into the zone. So they're out of their phone, they're into the competition. Thank you for the question. Yes?
Wait.
I can speak very loud, it's fine.
I think we need the online people, though.
Thank you. Should I go somewhere? Yeah. Hi, thank you for the lecture. Also, I have a question about inclusivity, since it's a hot topic all over the world right now.
It is.
My question is, when you're talking about inclusivity, right, you should have like a proportional representation of all different kinds of people. Is this correct?
In part.
In part. Because what I find a problem with right now, since I work in science as well, not only in business, is that every time we actually have a grant of some form, they right now want us to have a certain proportion of women and men in the team.
Yes. So there's a quota.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a quota, which I don't like personally, because
I
I'm not going to
understand.
hire into my team someone who's not fitting what I need. So
Of course.
if like a man has a team that is full of white people and they're all men, that's not wrong if they fit what he needs for his company, right?
Yes, and. So it's not wrong. What it is it's losing the opportunity to hire someone who has even better qualifications.
Yeah, but
Because-
that's not what I meant, though.
No, I understand what you meant. I totally get what you
Yeah.
meant. But the way that society is that certain people have advantages more so than others.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should lower the bar. I'm not saying we should change the level of qualifications when we're hiring. I'm saying for all things being equal, we have to look at the advantages that someone has when it comes to their voice being present in a team. So most teams have an advantage if they have a diverse set of voices in their team. Those teams just outperform the other teams. Remember what I said with the drinks earlier. 5 times more performance, 3 times more creativity. This is just science. This is just the research behind it. I'm not making a political statement about this. If you want your company to perform better, if you want to be more innovative, you have to be more inclusive. And part of that is understanding the value that diversity brings in those environments. And again, it's not about lowering the bar. It's about keeping those qualifications. Good fit is necessary, but so is good ad.
Definitely. So I would like to a little bit transform my question now.
Sure.
Because, okay, I personally had all women team because I didn't have anyone better qualified than these women, right? But I mean, like, of course, diversity is very important. I travel the world. I know so many different people on our university, at our university, and in our company. There's so many different people. But of course, like, how can I add diversity to my team if I have nobody that well qualified? Like, is there a way to kind of do that to
That's
actually?
a great question, and I do have. What's one of the other wins of inclusivity that I have in my keynote? So I won't go into it in too much detail here. There's a story that goes along with it, but the main lesson is you need to be able to see yourself and your work in 360 degrees. And you can't do that so long as you're only being mentored by people who are looking at you from the top down. So if all of your mentors are people above you, seniority, qualification, or anything like that, then you're missing a big part of what it is for you to develop professionally. So one of the ways of doing that is by reverse mentoring. So you find someone who's at a lower level than you professionally, who's maybe not as experienced or who has a different set of experiences and wants to change into a new industry, and you ask them to mentor you, and you give them the benefit of mentoring them in reverse. And so by creating these relationships, it gives you an opportunity to learn more about how you can do better, but it also gives you opportunity to raise the qualifications of that individual, so then you do have people that are highly qualified on your team. And yes, it does take time, it takes investment, but that's where the value comes from.
So it's a strategy that fits mostly bigger companies and like bigger teams. Because if you're a startup, you cannot spend so much time on someone that's completely without any knowledge, right?
Yes, and
If I say it like that.
you can say it like that. I think that's a really interesting point. And I just add to that I've started over 25 companies in my life, over half by students. Even the company that I run now, Inclusive Creation, booth in the back, is run, co-founded by one of my former students. Not Katie, a different student. And I think there is so much value out of traveling that journey together.
Okay.
Even if it is taking time out of your capacity to connect with that person and to work together towards a common goal, it's valuable time. It's time that will pay off, absolutely. I've seen it pay off 1,000 times in my own life. And so you have to get over that mental hurdle of this is a waste of time. As long as you think it's a waste of time, you're never going to get the value out of it. It's just not going to be beneficial. So the cheapest way that we can create a more inclusive working environment, of more inclusive companies, is to change our mind. It costs us nothing.
Yeah, it's usually a problem with finances and deadlines, but I understand. Thank you so much.
No
It's
worries,
amazing.
thank you, I
Thank you
appreciate
for a
it.
new point of view.
Sorry, we have more questions. I love questions.
Yes, I really liked the inclusion game, and I want to get away from inclusion in terms of individuals, but in terms of collaboration.
Yep.
As inclusion leads to collaboration, leads to higher adaptability rates as a company.
100%.
Where would you say, like, is there a limit? Where's that optimal range as a company from taking the theory and research into practicality?
Yep. The dynamic that you'll have to play off of in most cases is that you have to get over, first of all, that inclusion is about some superficial characteristics. When we talk about inclusion, we talk about 3D inclusion. So we're adding a third dimension. That third dimension is your background and experience. And so how that plays into your perspective is really, really, really important. So if I'm rolling out a product, say I'm rolling out a new website, it's going to be a new e-commerce platform, and I'm working with a team of people like me, then we're going to design that website for us. It's going to work for us. And we're only a fraction of the population. So let me give you an example. Since we don't have someone on our team who has a disability, we would have no way of understanding how that might work for someone with a disability. But if we're able to connect with someone, whether that's a collaborator, whether that's hiring someone as an employee, someone who's qualified, someone who meets that good fit, but who has a disability, then they're going to be able to, in that team, in that environment, help us make sure that that website is accessible for people with disabilities. And in doing so, it then becomes accessible for older people. It becomes accessible for people who may not have the first language in the website that you're using to program the language in. And there's a whole host. It works better for everyone, basically, and it certainly will work better for me. So the dynamic is that you have to find ways of bringing in new voices into the team, and then you have to work on the team to help them build empathy and understanding of other viewpoints. Because if you just have a whole bunch of people like me who may not have had the Katie experience, who someone from outside is trying to give you their criticisms, the whole team might go, no, fuck off. We don't care what you got to say, right? We've got this figured out. We're well qualified, right? So you got to work on the team's empathy. You got to work on bringing those diverse voices in, and that's a constant dynamic and interplay that has to evolve over time. So that's the threshold. You're welcome.
And I also wanted to ask something.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so you're talking about having, like you said, to shut up and let the people talk. But in my experience, some people are really shy.
Yes.
And they don't always, they might have good ideas, but they are scared or don't have the confidence to express it. How would you encourage that in a team?
So what we do is, in my team, we have a game we play called I Am Remarkable. And it's a very simple game. We say, I am remarkable, and then fill in the blank, right? And then what we work on is, what does that mean for our team? How does that make our team remarkable? And when I say our team, I don't mean just a summary. So if I say I'm remarkable because I'm cool and hip, and somebody else says I'm remarkable because I can think big thoughts, and somebody else says I'm remarkable because I can program a website, it's not just we are remarkable because of X, Y, and Z. We find a synthesis between all of our characteristics that we can say, as a team, this is what makes us remarkable. So it's not a summary, it's a synthesis. And that helps bring those voices in. So as a leader, what I would do is first work on the confidence of those individuals. You can do that one-on-one, again, through mentoring, or you can do it in other ways in a team setting. But I told you it was a simple lesson because it is, right? Shut up so that they don't shut down. Well, if we take it one more step, it's about creating space, right? And shutting up is is less than creating space. Shutting up is being quiet and maybe listening, maybe actively listening. But creating space is opening up that opportunity for a voice to be heard. And then decentering, so that's the kind of level up one more. So take yourself as a leader out of the spotlight and give someone else the opportunity to take the spotlight. And that can be done, again, in a number of different ways through mentoring and all these sort of things, confidence building, resilience, although I think it's overused. But anyways, sorry, tangent. Professors are terrible at that. So step one, shut up so that they don't shut down. Step two, create space for other voices to be heard. Step three, decenter yourself as the leader, recenter, focus on somebody else's perspective, experience, voice, and just inviting them in. So you have an interesting, I've heard you talk about this issue before. You have an interesting take. Why don't you share it with the group, right? And if they're shy, validate. So don't just say, okay, thanks, and move on. Say, I get it. That's so cool. I love X, Y, and Z about it, and I wish we could do this and this and this. So validating their experience can really help instill that sense of authority, if we could call it that. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm happy to be here.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm here.
Sorry, thank you. I love all these questions. Fantastic.
So since we speak about innovation, like as a managed process to promote innovation, what I recently read is that in this process, we need also to kill ideas.
Yes.
How it will align with what you just said. So, because not every idea that comes up is really what, and also killing these ideas may maybe work against the, I don't know, your opinion.
Yes, you're right. Killing an idea can totally invalidate someone's experience. So if I am underrepresented or I feel like I don't have a voice and I give voice to my perspective, my experience, the work that I think we should be doing, and you kill that, absolutely, that's going to invalidate that person's experience instantly. But if you start with the validation, treat their idea seriously, give it some credence. They're coming to you, they're overcoming a much bigger gap than you are when it comes to voicing their opinions and their ideas. And so give them that validation, give them that benefit of the doubt, the same benefit of the doubt that you and I have been given our whole lives. You have no idea how many job interviews I've been in that I've been less qualified for, that I've been given the benefit of the doubt. Oh, Anthony will figure it out. He'll gain that experience. He'll learn on the job. So give that same person the benefit of the doubt that they may not be articulating their idea perfectly, but there's got to be some value, otherwise they wouldn't have voiced their experience. And so then we can then take that into the team, own that idea, and then suss out where's the value, where's the benefit, what else can we do, how can we build off of that? So it's kind of, I don't know if you know this technique from improvisation, this yes and. You've heard me say it a lot today because there's been some a little bit nudges against, and so yes, you're absolutely right, and let's build off of that, right? So whomever's bringing up their idea, rather than just killing it and invalidating their spirits, yes, you're absolutely right, that's a great idea. I hear you saying this, this, and this, and I think we can build on that by doing X, Y, and Z, right? Now you're validating them, you're giving them that feeling of ownership. They're going to be much more engaged, they're going to be much more willing to give their all in that team.
Okay, then just one more question then.
Sorry, where are you? There you are.
Hello.
I'm just staring into the void. Yes.
Hi, Anthony. So my question would be, as I understand it, in Germany, for public listed company, the board of directors has to consist in 50% from people from the typical workforce, like a blue-collar people.
Yep.
And in Iceland, again, 50% of all public listed companies, board of directors have to be women.
Yep.
What do you think about the quotas?
The quotas, I think the quotas are, yes. First of all, you're absolutely right. In Iceland, they have this rule, it's the same in Norway, that boards of directors have to be 50-50 women. And here's one of the problems. So I work with an amazing human being who's an angel investor. She just does incredible work with impact investing. So she's investing in sustainable enterprises, social enterprises, and these sorts of things. She's been doing it her whole life. She is top. When I can get a 5-minute meeting with her, I feel like I'm meeting God. I'm just like, oh, I've got a meeting with Anne. And so I spoke with her one day, and she shared to me that she was invited to join a board of directors for a very big company in Norway. And they sat her down in a closed room in a closed door session and told her very clearly that we're not interested in your perspective. We're not interested in what you have to say. The only reason you're here is because you're a woman. And that's really problematic. So this is the double-edged sword. This is the other side of this quota system. The negative tokenism, the, again, invalidation of someone's qualification because they're pinning their fit only on their gender. Now, let's talk about another story. So in Rwanda, back in the 90s, there was this huge genocide that happened between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And after Rwanda began to rebuild, they established a quota system for their parliament, their Congress. And they said that half the people in Congress have to be women. And now they're one of the only countries on earth whose decision-making body, ultimate decision-making body in the country is over half represented by women. And that's an incredible achievement. That's a very admirable achievement, because we can be honest here. Is there any country whose parliament or Congress is entirely women? Is there any country whose parliament or Congress is entirely men? I think we all know the answer to that. There's probably many. So, yes, quotas can be a very negative thing because they can invalidate someone's qualifications, and it leads to tokenism. On the other hand, it can be a radical way of reforming society. It can be a radical push to change power structures. If that's an opinion, that's where I'm leaving it.
Thank you, Anthony.